How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing video number 3 in our overnight flipping series. Today we're going to be covering Drygores and seismics. So these are going to be pretty awesome because they're going to be very different from our first couple videos. I'm also going to put the first video up there so that way you guys can click on that and go watch that first video, because if you don't start with the first video in this series, you won't know what strategies and everything we're using for this content, and you will probably get a little bit confused along the way if you're not very experienced in doing this kind of stuff. If you've been doing overnights for a long time, you should probably be fine, but if this is something that's brand new to you, make sure you go check out that first video. Okay, so the first place we're going to go to is our Discord, where you can find the prices for Drygores, seismics, all this stuff posted constantly. So this is going to be a great place for us to actually look here and see what the average margins look like. Obviously I can tell you what the average margins look like, and that's no problem, but it's a little bit easier to actually show you and to see it coming from other people. That way you can see like what real margins look like at a time. So if you look right here, Foob, who's actually one of our community leaders in there who posts prices for everybody, he actually has a bunch of Drygores here, right here, and then I'm actually going to show you the search feature here in just a second to look up more Drygore prices, but you can get an idea of what the margins look like. As I said, the margin will greatly vary between 1 and 5 million depending on, you know, are you trying to flip them pretty quick, or are you trying to do them overnight, or you try to do them during a time where they're changing a lot, and then that actually goes right along with those margins. You'll usually get something between like 1 to 2 million if you're just trying to like actively buy and then sell them. And then actively flipping, though, doing that is a lot different than what we're trying to do in our strategy here, like in the overnight strategy. So you don't really want to try to go for that minimum margin that you might see like in a post like this. So with the main hand Drygore longsword, for example, right here, it shows a margin of 41.2 to 42.7. That's a 1.5 million margin, and that is definitely right in the average there. But that is something where, as you can see where he says stretch both, what that means is that you can expect to get a little bit better buy and a little bit better sell if you're going to be waiting longer and trying to go for that stretch goal. That's basically what that means. So what we want to aim for, honestly, if we're doing like our overnights, is we want to aim for a much larger margin. So how can you look for a bigger margin? We can actually go over here and we can see what those items were more recently traded for, and that will give us a little bit better example of what we can expect to get if we're waiting for a longer period of time. Because just to kind of like reiterate what we talked about in the strategy of this, if we look right here for Foob's posting, his posting is probably something where he was waiting like, I don't know, 30 or 45 minutes to get those prices, like to get that buy or to get that sell. Since we're going to be waiting an average of like, 8 hours to fill in a couple offers or something like that, we want to look at like what it would look like from one day to the next day, rather than what's looking at like what the price are looking at right now. So if we type in Mace in the search here in the Discord, and I know that I show our Discord a lot, and the reason why is because there is 12,000 people in here, and so we do get a lot of prices in here. So it is a very good source of finding what prices look like. That's the reason why I always show this. Right here though, let's see. So we've got, let's look for a good example here. Yeah, Lavris has some stuff posted here of 42.5 to 44.8 on the main hand Drygore long. That is a good amount above 2 million for that flip. 2.8 million margin on this Drygore rapier, and then looks like we got a 1.4 on that mace. We got something around 1 million on the offhand Drygore rapier. So what we want to look at is, let's see if we can look at something from like between a couple days here. So there we go. So Pidgeot actually posted them on 7/23 and then again on 7/25, so we can see what it looks like. On 7/23, it was like 46 to 47 on the main hand Drygore long, and then the main hand long we got 44 to 45.8. So it looks like that one went down a little bit. Looks like most of these actually went down in that time period. That is something that can normally happen with a lot of things. Now notice we're not usually going to be holding them for 48 hours. Our goal is to hold these things for 8 hours. So this drop wouldn't really happen to us with our strategy we're using here. But something we can actually do is kind of reverse engineer this. So if we were to flip flop these two and see what they can change over that course of 48 hours, we can kind of look and see there too. And also we will also cross-reference these with the graphs on the wiki in order to be able to see what the average changes are too. So if you look at it this way though, we're looking at 44 million on the main hand Drygore long to 47 million down here. We're looking at 51.2 on the buy for the offhand long to 53 million. And just looking at stuff like that gives you kind of an idea of what the fluctuations could be on these items like this. Let's take a look at seismics real quick before we leave here. Seismic. So if we look up seismic, man, some people use shorthand things in here too. So if I type in size or seismic, I might get different results. But anyway, let's go ahead and type in seismic. Looks like currently seismic singularities are hitting about 10 million margin, a little bit more than that maybe. Seismic wands look to be about 2 million. And I don't really have to dig too much more because that is usually what we'll be aiming for. With seismic singularity, 10 million is something you'll see very commonly in a PVM update like what's happening. And like I said, seismics are being affected more heavily than Drygores right now in this update. Drygores weren't really impacted very much because they're not really a big part of the update, but seismics are being frequently used, so they are a bigger part of the update. Singularity is usually something around like 5 or 8 million margin when you do not have an update, and then Seismic Wand is about the same, about 2 million. And I think on the day of release for Carapac, the margin was actually a little bit bigger. But let's go ahead and take a look at the graphs, and then that way I can take all the information I just showed you guys and combine it with the graph information to be able to give you a full picture of how you can find these prices and these margins. Okay, so next up for us is the Runescape wiki. So this is pretty easy to get to. All you gotta do is type in Drygore Longsword in Google and it'll pop up here. Or you can also go click on the wiki in the game and then it will show up for Drygore Longsword. Once you get the Drygore Longsword, you're just gonna scroll down here and then take a look at the enlarged chart, which is the graph. And then on here, you can see what we really need to see and also kind of what makes these items pretty awesome for overnight. If we click on the 1 month on here, you can see how this is not very jagged. You notice how this is very flat. Like if we zoom out, like I guess maybe a little bit easier to see if you zoom out, but notice how this is very blocky. It's like a very, very, very blocky graph. If I was to alternatively look up, let's say I was going to look up a super ranging potion, and let's take a look at a super ranging potion graphs just for a comparison really quickly. You can kind of see it on the zoom out, but as you can see, if I type in like 1 year or whatever, you notice how it's very, very sharp. It's very jagged. What that means is that Super Ranging Potion is frequently traded and is something that frequently updates and is a higher volume item. That is the reason why it looks so jagged and everything like that. Now, if we go back to Drygore Longsword, you can see the clear difference here, and that is that these are very flat. But it is still updating decently. There are other items that don't update hardly at all. They're like their graphs are so flat they just like barely even move. If we look at, I can show you another quick example. Let's look up a Third Age Wreath. I'm pretty sure this one would have the graph I'm talking about. And so if we click on Third Age Wreath here, there you go. Look at this. That is a 3-month graph, guys. Look at the 6-month graph. Look at the 1 year graph. As you can see, it is also very flat, similar to the Drygore Longsword, but this one, it doesn't change hardly at all. If we look right here from May 2nd all the way until June 30th. So literally 2 months it stays the same. What that means is that there's hardly any traded, and that the item just doesn't update very much. It doesn't change very much. There's not a lot of fluctuation as far as what the GE shows. So that makes for a really great item for overnight for starters, because it's something that you can really lock into some margins. You can really lock into like what price they go, like change from back and forth. If you remember when we looked at the Discord, we looked at Drygore Longsword. Even when the item dropped, like it, you know how I showed you how like from the 27th to 25th, the price had dropped a little bit. But even with that drop, you could basically still sell it for the price you had bought it for. You might even be able to make profit from where you bought it for, even with that drop. And that is what makes the items like this that have a very flat graph very effective for overnight flipping, is they're very, very low risk. So what you want to do is you want to find an item that has a very good margin and is also very low risk. Putting those two things combined will make it so that you have items that you can continue to flip for weeks and months and years. There have been people, especially in the Billionaire Flip Club section of our Patreon page, which is down below. Drygores are very heavily flipped for overnight stuff. You'll commonly see people that are like buying and selling stacks of Drygores all at once. And the reason why is because they are like this, they're very consistent. So you get the idea there. Let's go ahead and look in a little bit closer. So if you look at this right here, something else you can kind of plan for. Let's look at the 3 month. Yeah, there we go. A little bit more variance here. Something you can kind of plan for too when you're doing your overnights for these is if you are sitting here and you are like, okay, I'm constantly flipping these Drygores back and forth. So the average price here says the Drygore longsword is sitting at 48.7 million. Let's say you were doing 48.7 million to 50 million, and you're doing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. What you could do, since obviously it does start to rise a bit here, if it come back here, it starts to rise a bit here. It looks like they actually tend to go in like a rise for a while before they go into their drop. They go rise for a while before they go to another drop. And then even the drop though is like, if you look at how long it actually sits at one price, it actually sits at one price for a bit. Like even like, you know, kind of like we showed with the 27th to 25th dates on in the Discord back there. Even when they are dropping, they are still very safe in comparison to other things. But what you can do is you can actually plan to, since they don't move a whole lot, it gives you the opportunity to, if you want to, while you're overnight flipping them, you can kind of stock them up a little bit more. So using that batch flipping technique that we talked about in the first video of buying up multiple buy limits before you sell them off, and especially with Drygores having only a one buy limit, like a one item buy limit, it becomes a pretty awesome item. So if you wanted to hold on to it for a longer period of time to make some bigger money, like if you think it's rising, it's a very, very forgiving item where if let's say you were actually right up here and you were like, oh, I think I'm gonna stock up a bunch of these and see if they go up. And then it starts to go down. You have plenty of time to sell them before you are, you know, going to lose a bunch of money on them. So that, you know, that alone makes them pretty amazing. The exact same thing goes to seismic wands and singularities. Unless there's a big PVM update, those things are very, very, very solid. And seismic singularities can make you an incredible amount of money because the Drygore longswords are awesome, or the Drygores in general are awesome because they all have an average margin of 1 to 5 million. That is more realistically going to be 2.5 to 5 million if you're doing overnights only. So that's the more realistic margin there. And then the seismic wands having about 2 million, and then the seismic singularities are all the way up to like 5 or 8 million. But all these items act the exact same, and so you can treat them in all the same way. So the singularity is kind of like a super version of the other Drygores. Okay guys, we're here at the Grand Exchange. I've got this on my screen here, but I'm going to quickly explain how to find your prices, because obviously you're going to want to find the prices in order to be able to do these items. There are not really any good places to find these items to be priced anymore. There used to be like pricing friend chats and stuff like that, and they've pretty much all gone. There are a couple Discord servers that you can use that'll give you like, you're able to like do like a price check of like what somebody recently posted, but oftentimes those are going to be very outdated and they're not very good for trying to find some price you want to use right this second. They're just kind of good for like a general price. So the best way to do this is going to be to price check these items on your own, or also you can use our Discord down below. Like I said, we have 12,000 people and we are the largest flipping Discord for Runescape, where we literally focus on finding exact buy and sell prices for these type of things. So if you want those every single day, check it out down below. You can go in our server and go to the left side where it says flipping school and then go to price checking. So it would take me a good minute to sit here and explain to you how to look up prices for items that have one buy limit, but I actually built flipping school to show you guys how to do that, and then you can just literally see how it is with gifts and everything. So go check out that if you do not know how to price items that have a one buy limit. That'll save some time in this video. But the general strategy here, guys, is going to be for us to try to buy at least 2 buy limits of each item overnight or when you're at work or whatever. That is the strategy, that is the theme for this series. So if you were to do that right here, then you can expect to make about 6 million profit on each one of the slots that have a Drygore. Let me know if you guys like this visualization. I kind of like doing this, but you can kind of visualize 6 million profit in each one of these slots, and then you can also kind of visualize a 4 million profit on the seismic wand and a 10 million profit in the seismic singularity slot. Now obviously sometimes these will be better, sometimes they will be worse, and that is going to really depend on how like your experience of doing these. If this is your first night doing these, you might get a little bit less. Maybe some of these you'll get a little bit more, who knows. Anyway, it's going to vary each night, but you want to try to aim for these numbers at least. If you do this, if you successfully get this, then you'll be looking at a total of about 50 million profit per night. That is something totally realistic to do. And also too, just because these have two different buy limits here, you could totally buy 3 buy limits of each one of these things. If your guys are going to be, you know, logged out of your computer for 10 hours or 12 hours or 15 hours or whatever, you can get more buy limits than just 2 of them. This is just an example, and this is just really what we aim for. But practice on these things, and don't get discouraged if like one night it doesn't go very well. We have been doing Drygores and Seismics in our Discord for over 5 years. Like, they work, they are good. So I can assure you that if you have a little bit of difficulty, just work through it. Please use that price checking section that I built in the flipping school, because that will majorly help you. If you are a member of the Billionaire Flip Club for Patreon, then you can also look at the actual Drygore list I made, because I actually made a guide for how to flip Drygores overnight that has been out for quite a while that will definitely apply to this. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. I know I put a lot of information here, so if you have questions, please leave them in the comments down below. I really appreciate you guys being here. We have had a massive amount of people join our new sale tiers, so if you guys are looking to join the Patreon for a discount, you can do that now and get it for a sale price, which is pretty awesome. And I will see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.